Welcome to my Panzer Tactics series. In these series, I'm going to show you some short little engagements between units and show some tactics that I use in terms to accomplish a task in either attacking or defending units. In this particular case, I'm going to be showing Panzer North Africa, and I'm going to be showing an attack by 3 Sherman tanks, which you can see over here in the lower right-hand corner, against an 88mm gun, which is up here in the upper left-hand corner. It's also sitting in a rough patch of ground, so it's well concealed for these tanks to not be able to see it very easily right now. But we'll take a look at that through this. I'm going to kind of walk through the steps and kind of mock up the battle between the tanks and the gun for you with this, and kind of show you some of the reasoning for this and the reason why I'm doing things the way I'm doing within Panzer. And it'll kind of highlight some of the play and some of the action within here, and kind of show best tactics in terms of doing things here. So let's get to it. So the situation is we have these attacking tanks down here to the right, going after this 88mm gun. Now, first thing to note is the range on them. Right now, we are looking at a range of 14 hexes, or 1400 meters, which is a pretty long range for this engagement, for them to get started. And we can see that if we look at their data cards, particularly the Sherman tank here, where in this case the Sherman at a 14 using GP, because the 88 is a soft target, is going to be a medium range. So we intersect the 14, which in this case is 16, because it fits within the range here. It's going to be a medium range, and they're going to be able to hit them with a 3 for GP. But one of the things that we've got to be concerned about with this, with our Shermans at least, is can the Shermans actually see them over here? Now in this case, the answer is no. Short answer is no, and I'll explain why. Because at this range, at a range of 14 hexes, the 88mm gun in the rough terrain is actually going to not be spotted. It's not going to be seen because it hasn't fired yet, hasn't moved, hasn't done anything yet. So it's not going to be seen. And how we see that is by going over to our player aid cards, number B. And if we look over here at our spotting ranges, now the 88mm gun, it's a special size. And one thing to remember with these, you've got the vehicle, large, and small. That's what the V, L, and S stand for. This is not in any of the rules directly in terms of definitions, but the V is for vehicle, L is for large, S is for small. And the reason why we know the 88 is that way is that if we look at the 88 card over here, you'll see as the size, it is a size L, not a size S or a size V. It's a size L. So they're going to be an L size over here. Now the other thing is that remember with spotting, this is the base. 0 is always the base. That's where you start from, and then you add your modifiers. Well, we've got one modifier. The fact that it's in medium cover. The rough terrain is actually medium cover, which is shown over here on the terrain chart. Right there, it's medium cover. So at medium cover, there's a subtraction of 2. We drop down 2 for that, and you still notice we've got the number 5. Let me focus on that for that so you can see right there, 5. So -2 and the L column gives us 5. So that means that they can only be spotted to a range of 5 as they sit right now. They haven't moved, they haven't fired, they haven't done anything. They're just well concealed in here. So our tanks over here cannot see that 88 sitting over here. Meanwhile, our 88 can see those tanks. Reason why? They're in the open and they're vehicles. These Shermans are vehicles over here, so if we again look back at our spotting ranges for vehicles, the base is 20. They have moved. We can see that we got the green dot on them for moving, presuming they moved into place the prior turn. So they're actually going to be a +2 on there. In the open, there's no other modifiers. So they're actually going to be able to be seen at 40. So well within the spotting range of the 88. So again, highlighting one of the nice things about this, even though we know there's an 88 over here, we can't shoot at it yet because we can't see him. He's not visible. We're not close enough to see him within there. So that brings up our first dilemma for our Shermans. How do we actually get to spot him and engage with him to be able to do something before he engages with us? Well, short answer is we're probably not. It's probably not going to happen. He's probably going to have to shoot at us and either hit and destroy one of our tanks before we can fire back at him. Just going to be the fact of life with this. So how do we progress to move up here and be able to engage him and try to take him out with a minimal amount of loss? Hopefully we'll get lucky on our dice rolls, but we'll have to see. Well, what we're going to do here, going into our turn one, is first specify our commands. Now I'm going to put the commands on, which I have chosen, and then talk to them. So in here, I've actually have 3 commands. The presumption is each one of these units could have their own command. I'm going to have 2 move commands and an overwatch command. All right. The move command's pretty self-explanatory. They're going to move up. We've got to move up. We've got to get closer. There's no other way of engaging them without moving closer. So that's pretty safe to understand. Now the overwatch, you say, why do you have an overwatch on them if you can't see them? Well, that's one nice thing, again, about the command structure is that with an overwatch, it can be placed without spotting. The only units that have a requirement of spotting are a fire or a short halt. So with the overwatch, we can put that on pretty much anybody and they can sit there just watching. They're just waiting, and if they see something, they're going to shoot. So what this gives us the opportunity for is if these guys move up and that triggers overwatch from, or triggers some sort of fire from the 88 over here, then we will be able to shoot back at him directly and try to knock him out when we move. So again, one nice feature and a nice way to use the overwatch. We can use the overwatch pretty much to respond to any type of movement or firing by an enemy unit. So that's why I use it over here. Now, with continuing on here, we're also going to give an overwatch to the 88, okay? And presumably these are unknown. I'm placing these out here because I'm illustrating this, but presumably these are unknown. We can probably make a good guess as the Sherman tank drivers or commanders that they're going to be in an overwatch mode. The 88 probably can assume that somebody's going to be moving, but not everybody's going to be moving. So, this is fair assumptions in terms of the play. So we've got that. So now let's take a look at the moving. So we're going to start out moving, and the first tank we're going to do is move him up here. Now, I've moved him all the way up. Now, the 88 could have engaged him in any hex that he moved into, here, here, or here. But if the 88's smart, or the gun crew is smart of the 88, they're going to wait till it gets to maximum point. And because they're only 3, their movement is only 3 in open terrain, that's going to bring them to there. So that brings them to a range of 11. But now let's take a look at that. 11 is 1,100 meters. Let's take a look at the 88 in terms of its firing capabilities at 1,100 meters. So we look up 11, again, using our thing here. We're going to look at, we're going to be on the AP firing, presuming we're not using any type of special ammo. We're going to be on the AP, and we look over for the 11, and we find it's under the medium column. Certainly has a good penetration and might well blast through, but first we've got to secure the hit. So it's medium range. Okay, that's good. So let's take a look at what medium range means on our firing tables. So if we look at our firing tables, which is chart A here, we're going to look at medium range. That's a base of 50. In other words, we're going to start at this as a 50-50 chance that we're going to hit them. Great. Now we've got to take a look at our modifiers. Our modifiers are going to be target size, which is not a big deal, but they're moving. So that's going to go down 2. So it brings us to 40. And then we're going to have overwatch, because remember that 88 right there is in an overwatch mode. So he's going to get another -1. So that brings him all the way down to 35%. All right, 35%. 3.5 out of 10, you're going to get a shot. Now typically, if I was playing as the Germans and can control the 88 gun, I would not take the shot at this point. It's too risky in terms of missing. And why do I say that's a problem? Well, here's the problem. Going back to what we were talking about with Overwatch, is if I fire at him and say I roll up 36, just missed him. Well, that means that this guy now is considered fired. So let's take a look at our spotting tables, because spotting happens instantaneously. The moment we fire, all of a sudden, that changes our spotting visibility. So we were at 15 and we were -2 for the rough, so it was 5 hexes. So that's real good shape for the 88. But now we fired, so that means a +3. So now we go back up 1, 2, 3. Now we can be seen up to 23 hexes away. What does that mean? That means that these guys back here, particularly our man right here who has the Overwatch that I just made go under, there we go, he can now shoot back at him. Okay, so if he shot and missed, he could now take the shot at him and potentially hit him. Let's take a look and see what that looks like. So if we look at the Sherman at this point, we said he was a range of 14, which is right here. Let me focus that in. For GP, he's at medium range. He's going to be shooting as a 3. Okay. With GP. Remember, GP is a little bit different because now we've got to look at the GP defense, which I need the 88 over here, which he's in medium cover, which is a 4S, means 4 soft target. So it's a 3 against a 4. So if we look back at our GP effect chart, we see here, if we cross-reference the 3 with our 4 over here, you see we get a 56 and an 83. Meaning that's going to be 56 or greater to suppress, 83 or greater to be effective. But we do have some modifiers. Specifically, we have a modifier for the Overwatch by the tank, which is going to be a -5. So that's going to modify our attack here to be 61 or 88. All right, 61 or 39% chance of suppression and a 12% chance of actually knocking him out, actually destroying him, and ending the ending the tutorial. So that's a pretty good chance. Those type of odds is pretty good to at least get a suppression, because suppressions in this game are very powerful things. They will knock down the capabilities of shooting dramatically in there as well. So it's a good chance to get suppression. So at this point, the risk to the reward is very unbalanced. It's not on the right side of what we want to do. So with the 88 and something like this, what I generally have as a standard for engaging targets like this, where I have the cloak of visibility, so to speak, is I don't want to engage them until I have a 50% or better chance of hitting them. So dropping down to 35, that's a no-brainer for me. It's like, no, I'm not shooting at him. I'm going to wait till I can get closer. Either he's not moving, or they shift into a new range. They shift from being medium into short. And most likely it's going to be this one going into a new range of short. So for the 88, what does that mean? That means that a short range is 7 hexes. So I've got to wait till this guy gets within 7 hexes, which is this hex row right here, hex row T, it looks like, yeah, T, before we engage. And that's a fair principle to work by, because that gives you the greater probability of hitting. Now, if he gets close like that, there's a chance he could hit you back and knock you out as well. But you've got a good chance of knocking him out and doing some damage, first, and taking him down. And that's why we have a group of 3, a platoon of 3 coming in, because we want to have more units moving up. And there we go, we move up our second unit to move up behind and get as close as possible so that if he does engage, and then the other units can see him and then potentially either engage with an overwatch or engage him in the next turn with a fire marker if we get the initiative in the proper sequence. So let's continue on here. And so there's our first turn moving up. Nobody's really engaged because we're still kind of out of range, can't see him. The Shermans can't see him, and he doesn't have a really good probability of hitting him. So let's move to turn 2. So here, the commands change a little bit for the Shermans. And in this case, what I'm going to do is have the movement on the first tank, overwatch on the second tank, and movement on the third tank. Now the 88 is still going to be in the overwatch because he's looking to shoot over here, but now we're really going to concentrate on the Shermans. Now the first one's move because I want him, he's in the lead, and he's going to be the first one to get shot at, no matter what. If the 88 decides to shoot now, he's going to shoot at the first one. That move capability on him like that automatically gets a -2 modifier. And that is the difference between a 50% and a non-50% right there. Because you can see even with just at a medium range, dropping it down 2 brings us to 40. Never mind overwatch, which gets us to 35 as we saw before. Same thing happens even worse as we go to long range, 30%, down 3 is 21%, 1 out of 5 chance, roughly, of hitting them. And then if we go to short range, again, dropping down 2 and an overwatch brings us down to 49, which is, there we're right on the border. We're right at about that 50% mark. So I would engage with something like that. So by having him move, that kind of gives him a little bit more defensive posture because or defensive protection, because the 88 will not get a chance to hit him with a 50% shot in terms of my thresholds. So he's going to get the move to move up. He's going to be the next guy behind him. He's going to want to be an overwatch because he's closer now. He's a little bit closer. He is now at a range of, what's he at, probably 12? Yeah, he's at a range of 12. So if we looked at the Sherman real quick and looked at the Sherman's firing, it's still going to be, in that medium range because I haven't dropped down to 9, but he's just a little bit closer. So if that Sherman gets a little thought of shooting at this guy when he moves up, he can take a shot at him, much like what we had in the last turn. Now the other guy who's back here now plays catch up. He's just moving up 1, 2, 3. He's back of the line. He's going to move up and kind of go from there. So let's get them moving. That's going to be our base range for our 88 to engage. And then we're moving this guy up. And then now we're going to move this guy up to there. I could have moved him one more. I think I just miscounted over there. But he's only at a range of 8 right now. So he's just... no, he's at a range of 9, I believe. Let's just check that real quick. Yeah, he's at a range of 9. So he's still well out of the 7 range over here. Now that 88 could engage him over here. Again, it's a medium range shot. It's only a 35%. If he does, that overwatch is going to hit him back here. We're going to, for the sake of argument, not have them engage and move on to a turn 3. So turn 3, here's where we change things a little bit. So now the lead unit is going to become overwatch because he's well far out and he's in the 9 range. Well, wait a minute, 9 sounds familiar. Where did I hear that before? Well, let's look at the data card for the Sherman. If we look, and let's focus in on here. If we look at this and look at GP 9, ooh, look at that. We're in the short range. And now that's increased to 4. That's increased to 4. That's very interesting because, dropping my focus there again, if we look at our GP chart, actually I should look at the 88 first real quick for you. If he engaged with at medium range and the 88's in medium cover, he's a 4S. So it's basically a 4 versus 4 on the GP column. So once again, focusing on my GP, we've got 4 at 4 right there. Now we're looking at a 52 or greater to suppress, 80 or greater to eliminate. There's a -5 for Overwatch, so it's actually 57 and 85. This becomes a little bit better because 57, thinking about it percentage-wise, actually it's going to be 43% chance of suppressing him and 15% of killing him, where it was 12% and 39% before. So we've moved up and become a little bit more effective in terms of our capabilities. So that's why he's at Overwatch. The other guys over here, they're going to stick to moving to catch up, and the 88's just going to sit there with the Overwatch. So these guys move up. He moves up 1, 2, 3. He moves over 1, 2, 3. Just want to get him a little bit closer. Shifting them around left and right is fine, depending upon how you want to do it. I want to get these guys over here more towards the front, and this guy's staying a little bit towards the side, and you'll see what happens with that a little bit later. So now you can see we are positioned just out of his range. Oh, there's 7. We're just out of his range. Tempting to shoot at these guys, but again, these guys moved, so we're not going to be able to hit them very well. And of course, Overwatch is only triggered by fire or movement. So this guy back here who is Overwatched, he doesn't get anything happening to him. Okay, moving on. Turn 4. Here we go. It's going to get interesting. Now we've got Overwatch on the 88. We've got Overwatch on the same guy that we had last turn. We got move. But then I realized it shouldn't be a fire because I can't see him yet. I still can't see him. The range, our range to see him hasn't changed. It's still a 5. So 5 hexes is only right to there. So we can only see to that point in terms of recognizing, the enemy. So then we move on here, and we're going to move up. Guy behind, he's going to go into the lead. And guess what? He is now in the 7 range. Right there. So more than likely, that's when the 88's going to open up on him right there. Okay, and when he does, I've got the calculation here, and I'll explain what it is. Oh, come on, all of these things off of there. There we go. So the 88 has a 49% chance of hitting him. How do we know that? Because he's at the range of 7, short range. If we look at our charts over here, you can see short range, he's moving, Overwatch 49%. So there's a good chance that he can hit him. Now once he hits him, he's hitting him on the front. So it's going to be either turret front or hull front armor. Now the penetration is also devastating at 700 meters. 24 for the 88. Now the armor for the Sherman at this point for the turret is 18. Hull is 16. So there is a differential there of, well, with the hull is 8, and with the turret it is 6. So there's a good chance that if they hit them, it will go right through and damage them or destroy them over there. So he potentially can engage at this particular point. Now if he does, then again our Overwatch is going to kick in over here after all the other firing is completed. This guy over here can get a chance to shoot at him, and we look over there, he's a range of 9 as we saw before. That's a 4 versus 4, and if we look, he'll have a 44% chance of hitting him with suppression, or a 15% chance of being effective. So at this point, we could have completed the little scenario here with Sherman being potentially knocked out, good chance, as well as the 88 potentially being knocked out, here with this. But for the sake of continuing and showing more tactics, we're going to pretend that they didn't hit each other, and we're going to move on. Now, one thing I should say, with the Sherman's attack here, if this Sherman was knocked out, your strategy changes quite a bit because now you're down to 2 tanks. You've lost one, you've still got the 88 out here, and you've got 2 tanks. So now it becomes really a big hopscotch here where one unit is going to move up and the other one is going to be in overwatch to potentially shoot at him or fire. You know, they may just go into a short halt situation where they just keep pounding him away with GP to do something against him over there, or you know, fire smoke or anything like that. Really becomes wide open at this point once they start engaging. So let's pretend that didn't. We're going to actually move him up. The other guy was moving, so he moves forward as far as he can. And of course the 88 is already engaged, potentially this guy over here, so he's not firing again. So now we move on to turn 5. And this is where it gets more interesting, because with turn 5 we start to introduce short halt now that we know what the target is over here. That the 88 is visible now. We can see them because he's fired. Everybody can see him. Everybody can potentially shoot at him or do something. And this is where it takes a little bit of thinking too, to use some of these other commands, because they can be useful as well. So first off, we've got a short halt on the lead unit. Why short halt? Gives us the capability of shooting, and it keeps that -2 bonus from moving on the defensive. So even if he shoots at them, it's going to drop immediately down to 2. Doesn't guarantee he's not going to get shot. It just makes it harder for him to. The other benefit out here too is if you're using the smoke rules, smoke is very effective with a short halt command. Because short halt gets a very bad negative bonus if you're trying to just fire regular GP at a target. But with smoke, there's no penalty. You can shoot smoke to your heart's content with short halt with no penalty. With smoke, the shooting smoke is very simple in terms of how you do it. If we look at our data cards here, and I should also mention too, this is a good point to tell you how do you recognize that a tank has smoke, is you have this right here where the ammo says S6 and you have smoke over here. The S6 is the ammo number, and it's basically the number you need to place a smoke shell successfully on a target. So if he's out here, he could potentially fire smoke over here. He just needs to roll on a 1d10, 6 or less, and he places a smoke on the target or anywhere around him. So in other words, I could place smoke here, I could place smoke here, 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 here. I could place smoke anywhere. The only requirement for placing smoke is that you have a visible target to shoot at. You don't have to place it in the target hex. You can place it around the hex too, and that can be extremely useful, as we'll talk about here in a little bit. Okay, so we got the first one on there. Next one's going to be a fire. Now, why did I put a fire over here? Because engagement. Think of engagement. The 88 is going to shoot at the closest enemy target first, so he's going to go after him. So he is somewhat safer, if he's still alive, to be able to fire back. So with a fire, of course, you don't get negative modifiers like you do with the short halt, but of course you don't get the defensive benefit. But because he's back here and there's no other units shooting at him, he's in good shape. Other cases where you've got other units, he may also become a short halt here as well to be able to shoot. But our overwatch, what we did over here is pretty much done for this particular attack. The other guy over here, he's going to move. He's the last one in the line, so he's going to move. But Overwatch, I don't need to really Overwatch anymore, at least for this particular scenario, because he is now spotted. He is now a known enemy unit, and we can engage him with direct fire, not waiting for him to fire. Okay, continuing on here. He's going to get a fire. So now that becomes interesting, and this is where initiative comes into play quite a bit, because whoever gets the first initiative is going to probably destroy one or the other, potentially. But let's say they didn't. The 88 has actually, it's a 56, I mistyped that. There's a 56 chance of hitting this guy up here, which is pretty darn good, even though he's moving. And this guy has a chance of hitting him with, again, 44% chance of suppression, 15% chance of effective hit. So there's really some good opportunities to destroy each other here as well. Last turn we could have knocked out this tank, and this tank could have knocked out him. Same thing happens over here. Except now the difference is if everybody missed, this is where we can shoot smoke from our short halt tank up here. We fire a short halt, it's got a 60% chance of being successful, and places a smoke shell somewhere in the hex over in here. Now typically I would place, in this particular case, what I would do is you could place it on the target itself. It's a double-edged sword because smoke provides a negative bonus to both sides. Whoever's firing through smoke gets that negative modifier on the attack. I have had more success by placing smoke just in front of the target, blinding them without encompassing them with smoke. So in other words, I would put smoke in N3 right here, this hex right here. What that does, if I get a smoke marker out, bear with me for a moment to get this out. Chat amongst yourselves. There we go. Smoke on right there. So now if I place smoke like that, you can see what happens. He gets blinded here. So now if he tries to shoot at any of our targets, here, 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 he's got a smoke modifier. Same goes true with us. We've got a smoke modifier for everything. Now another thing to note about smoke is it lasts 2 turns. You can see there's a smoke on, smoke off, and then it goes away. So they've got smoke placed here, then it'll be off for the next turn, and then it'll be removed on the conclusion of the third turn. So that gives us kind of an umbrella to block us over here. But one thing to note, it doesn't necessarily block this guy from being hit from other angles. So for instance, if I am shooting in this direction, like that, I can still hit him, right? If I'm shooting in this direction, oops, well, kind of get it, going this way, I can still hit him. All right, this gives me angle. It blinds him to the front, but it doesn't blind me from hitting him on the sides. And this is important because if you watch, as I now move this forward, you'll see that this tank moves up. This Sherman over here to the right moves up, and the other Sherman, where is it? There he is. He moves up over here as well. Now, at this particular point, he's still going to have smoke blocking because it's going down the side over here, and he's going to add the modifier. Same with this over here. But in the next turn, he's going to be able to move up here and get a shot on him when this is flipped over. So if I go like that, so now it's on the off. The next turn, he's going to move up and potentially can get a shot over here as well. These guys are potentially safe for the moment, and they could fire more smoke in there or not, or fire through him and, you know, try to hit him, try to suppress him, or do something to pin him down so that the other guy can get up there and then take a shot at him as well. So that's what smoke does for us. Let's continue on. And now this time, I'm going to take the smoke off here because I played this out without the smoke. So now at this point, now it becomes a series of short halts, fires, and moves to get people in position to attack. So you can see here, he's going to be, again, short halt because he's the closest. He's going to be a fire, and he's going to be a move to catch him back up. So now we're going to get something like this. Again, if nobody hits anything, it's going to go kind of like this. Right? And now we go to turn 7. Again, rinse, repeat. And you can see I can move up like this. And I'm slowly closing on. I mean, at this point, most likely we're going to get some destroyed tanks and probably a destroyed gun, but just showing how to actually close in on the final attack, on the attack like this, and then get them to a point that they can either shoot at really point blank range or potentially overrun the gun over there as well. Okay, so even I say at this point, it's close to range and can overrun, and you know, if it hasn't been eliminated already. So hopefully you like that little tutorial in terms of Panzer tactics and North Africa and trying to attack, because you don't have a lot of terrain here. You know, you don't have any woods to hide behind. You don't have any hills to hide behind. You got a few scrub and and rocks and things like that, but those can be detrimental as well to just sitting in there. So hopefully this gives you a little insight in terms of tactics, in terms of the mechanics with the tactics, and how to play a little bit better. So hopefully you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Please like us, please comment, please subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.